Fortinet Single Sign-On is available in Windows, Citrix, Novell, and Radius network environments. Without Fortinet Single Sign-On authentication, users must first enter workstation logon credentials to authenticate on the domain controller, then re-enter logon credentials to authenticate at the firewall, before finally being able to access network resources. But by using Fortinet Single Sign-On authentication, users authenticate just once for both. Logon events are detected at the domain controller. Then the server relays authentication data to the FortiGate. So when a logged on user accesses the internet or some other policy-controlled network resource, there's not another prompt to again enter a username and password. There are 3 modes of operation for FSSO: collector agents installed at the server, a dedicated deployment, the Forta Authenticator, and in Windows Active Directory network scenarios, polling mode. We'll focus on FSSO in polling mode, available only for Windows Active Directory network environment. Direct polling mode is featured in FortiOS 5.0 and above. It works by direct polling of the domain controller by the FortiGate for logon events. This lets you opt out of both Forta Authenticator deployment and server software installation. Now we'll show how to configure FSSO polling mode for Windows Active Directory on the FortiGate. In this demo, we're using FortiOS 5.0 build 271 on a FortiGate 300C. Before configuring FSSO, we first configure the LDAP server. Go to User and Device, Authentication, LDAP Servers. Click Create New. We enter name, in this case AD864R2. Now the IP address of the LDAP server. Leave the server port at its default value of 389. Enter a distinguished name. Microsoft Active Directory only supports the regular bind type. If this were open LDAP, we could use simple or anonymous. We enter the value for user distinguished name and a password. We test and see that the connection is successful. Another test is to click here in the distinguished name field, and you'll see the LDAP hierarchy. Okay, the next step is to configure the FSSO. We click on Create New. We want this to poll the Active Directory server, so leave the type option where it is. We enter the IP address of the domain controller, logon and password, and we specify which LDAP server. There's only one right now configured. Scrolling down, I'll select Group 1 and Group 2. Okay, now the FortiGate has Active Directory user group information we can use to map to FortiGate user groups. And here's where we'll create our FSSO user group. Go to User, User Groups. We'll use the one already created, AD. The type must be FSSO. Clicking on Members shows the 2 groups we just configured. We add them by clicking. Click OK. And OK again. Now to use this group in a policy, go to the Policy section, select an interface, We'll use an existing entry created for traffic between port 10 and port 9. Create a user identity-based policy in this policy subtype. Click Create to configure authentication rules. And here's where we'll use the AD group just defined. We'll log all sessions and apply default antivirus and deep scan profiles. Click OK. Click OK. And we see a policy created for our FSSO group on this interface. User test1 is a member of group 1, which was used to define the FSSO AD group. Using a CLI command, we can verify that the authentication information is now present in the FortiGate. The user is test1. Here's the IP address. And we see this user is part of the defined group 1, a member of the AD FSSO group. There's also a GUI method to verify FSSO authentication. Go to User and Device, Monitor Firewall. Click Show All FSSO Logons. And here we see the username test1, who is a member of the AD FSSO group. And so we should be able to access a website. We'll go to Fortinet.com, and we succeed without any prompt for additional credentials. This concludes the demonstration of configuration of FSSO polling mode in Windows Active Directory on the FortiGate. Thanks for watching.